My wife cheated on me with her boss, then stole over $200, $0 from our joint account to fund her affair. Now she's filed for divorce claiming I'm financially abusing her, and I just found out she secretly bought a house in her name alone, leaving me broke and betrayed. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy writing about how my wife, Lisa, turned out to be a complete nightmare. Honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. Married for 8 years, 2 kids, a nice house, decent jobs. But I was dead wrong. The first sign was subtle, almost easy to ignore. She started working late more often, claiming it was just important meetings or company stuff, but I could tell something was off. She'd come home exhausted, avoiding eye contact, and her phone was glued to her hand. At first, I thought maybe she was just stressed with work, or maybe she was secretly planning a surprise birthday or something. But deep down, I felt a gnawing suspicion, like a gut punch I couldn't shake. Then came the small things, little changes that added up. Her phone started getting password protected, even around me. She'd slip and leave her laptop open, but then quickly shut it when I walked by. She'd brush off my questions, call me paranoid. Still, I tried to ignore it, convincing myself that maybe I was overthinking. But the real shock hit when I found out she was secretly withdrawing money from our joint account, more than I'd ever seen her do before. I asked her about it, and she told me she was saving for a vacation or some emergency fund. Yeah, right. That's what I told myself at first, but then I noticed the real thing. Our savings were dwindling, and she was spending money on things I didn't recognize. One night, I decided to check her phone when she was in the shower. I know, invasive, but I was desperate. I found messages, flirty, suggestive texts to her boss, Mark, who I knew was a bit of a player. They were planning secret meetups, talking about getting away for the weekend, and laughing about how Lisa needed a break from the kids. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. How could she do this? How could she cheat on me with someone who clearly saw her as just another conquest? The worst part was the timing. She was still pretending to be this perfect wife, cooking dinner, kissing me goodnight, all while she was sneaking around with her boss. It was like living with a double life. I didn't confront her right then. Instead, I decided to gather evidence. I started watching her more closely, checking bank statements, listening to her phone calls. I found out she'd been meeting Mark at fancy hotels, going out for dinners, things I only dreamt of doing with her. My mind kept circling around how she could betray me like this, especially after everything we'd been through. I was angry, hurt, and confused. How could I have missed the signs? How did I not see the woman I married was capable of this level of deception? I felt so stupid, so naive. I thought I knew her, but I was just blind to the truth. Then came the worst part. She started accusing me of being controlling and emotionally abusive when I tried to talk to her about her secret phone and her lies. That's when I knew I was losing her, and everything was falling apart faster than I could hold on. After I found the texts and saw the evidence of her meetings with Mark, I was furious but also numb. I couldn't believe I'd been played for a fool for so long. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, she was cheating on me, sneaking around, lying through her teeth. I decided I had to confront her face to face, no more hiding or pretending I didn't know. That night, I sat her down in the living room, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. Her reaction was classic Lisa, defensive, bitchy, and dismissive. She rolled her eyes when I brought up the messages, calling me paranoid and obsessive. "You're making a big deal out of nothing," she snapped, brushing her hair back with that irritatingly smug look on her face. "It's just work stuff and you're overreacting. Mark's just a friend, and I don't owe you an explanation about my personal life." I couldn't believe her. How could she lie so easily? How could she pretend she hadn't been caught? It was like talking to a wall. She kept spinning her stories, twisting everything to make herself look innocent. I asked her outright if she was having an affair. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk and said, "You're paranoid. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, I wouldn't need to sneak around to have some peace." That was the moment I realized she'd been gaslighting me from the start. She was trying to turn the tables, make me feel like I was the crazy one, but I knew the truth. I knew she'd been unfaithful and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The emotional toll hit me hard. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. I'd spent years building a life with her, and now I was standing there, realizing she'd been lying to my face this entire time. I felt a deep sadness, too, like my whole world was crashing down around me. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it coming, how I missed the signs, how I let her manipulate me into thinking everything was fine. The worst part was the sense of helplessness, knowing she'd been secretly draining our savings, stealing money to fund her affair, and then turning around to accuse me of being abusive when I finally confronted her. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the confrontation, trying to understand how everything got so twisted. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal. I had no idea what to do next, whether I should fight to save the marriage or just cut my losses and walk away. But one thing was clear. I couldn't keep living like this, knowing she was out there, lying, cheating, and stealing from us. I decided I needed to step back and think about my next move. But deep down, I knew that this was just the beginning of something much worse, and I wasn't sure if I could come back from it. The next few days were a blur of chaos and realization. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't sleep, and couldn't stop thinking about everything she'd done. The more I dug into the bank statements, the more I uncovered. Over $200, $0 gone from our joint account, money she drained to fund her secret affair with Mark, her boss, who I now knew was a known player in the local business scene. It wasn't just an affair. It was theft, betrayal on a financial scale I never imagined possible. She'd been secretly buying a house in her name alone, hiding it from me, and I found out through a legal document I stumbled across online, an address I'd never seen before in her name. I felt betrayed to my core. How could she do this? How could she steal from us, our kids' future, our home, everything we built, just to keep up this lie? It was like she'd been planning her escape for months, maybe longer. The house was in her name, paid off with our savings, and I was left with nothing. No warning, no explanation, just a note in the divorce papers claiming I was a financial abuser and that she needed to escape a toxic environment. Toxic. That's rich coming from her, considering she'd been cheating on me and stealing from us all along. I couldn't believe she'd turned into this manipulative, selfish person. She'd always been bitchy, yes, but this was something else entirely. She lied so much she'd convinced herself she was the victim. I remember the day I found out about the house. I was in shock. I felt like I'd been punched again, only this time it was in the gut. She'd been secretly planning her exit, and I was left with nothing but a pile of broken trust and a bank account that was empty. The worst part was the silence afterward. She filed for divorce so quickly, claiming I'd been emotionally abusive, another lie to make herself look innocent. I started to see the full picture of how she'd manipulated everyone around her. She'd always been good at spinning stories, at making herself look like the victim. Now, she was painting me as the bad guy, all while she was out there, living her best life with her boss, spending money she stole from us. I felt so angry, so betrayed that I could barely breathe. I wanted to confront her again, to ask her why she did it, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. She'd already made her move, and I was left to pick up the pieces of a life she'd shattered. In the end, I realized I had to focus on myself and my kids. I couldn't fix her or undo what she'd done, but I could protect what was left of my own future. I started consulting lawyers, trying to understand how to handle the divorce, the stolen money, and the house in her name. Every day now feels like walking through a minefield. One wrong step and everything could blow up. But I've learned one thing: trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. Lisa's betrayal has changed me forever, and I'm just trying to figure out how to rebuild my life from this mess. The legal process has been a nightmare, more complicated than I ever thought it would be. I hired a lawyer, of course, and he told me the house in her name alone was a significant issue. She managed to hide everything well, but the evidence I had, bank statements, emails, the legal document, made it clear she'd been planning her escape for months. The problem was the money. Over $200, $0 gone, and most of it was spent on trips, designer clothes, and of course, lavish dinners with Mark. She'd been funding her affair at my expense, and I felt sick every time I thought about how she'd used our joint account as her personal piggy bank. She claimed I was financially abusive, and that I'd been controlling and manipulative. That was her new story, her way of trying to turn the tables on me, but I knew the truth. I wasn't perfect, sure, but I never stole from her, never lied about my whereabouts, and I certainly didn't drain our savings to fund a secret life. That's what makes this so hard to swallow. She's painting herself as the victim, even as she's living a lie. I couldn't believe she was so good at spinning her web of lies that she managed to convince the court and everyone around her that she was innocent. The divorce papers were filed, and I was served with the papers a week later. She accused me of all kinds of things: emotional abuse, financial manipulation, even stalking. It was infuriating. I knew she was just trying to distract from her own betrayal. Meanwhile, she'd secretly bought a house in her name alone, completely hidden from me until I stumbled across that legal document. She was trying to cut me out completely, leaving me broke, and now she's claiming I owe her money. That I was the one misusing funds and controlling her. It's laughable, really. I've never been the controlling type. I just wanted honesty, respect, and a little loyalty. The emotional toll is brutal. I go from feeling angry to feeling numb, then back again. She's out there living her best life, supposedly free, while I'm stuck trying to make sense of it all. I keep asking myself if I should fight for the marriage or just cut my losses and move on. Honestly, right now, I'm leaning toward walking away. I don't want to be married to someone who sees me as an enemy when she's the one who betrayed me so thoroughly. The worst part is knowing she's already bought a house and is planning her new life. Without me, without our kids, and I'm left with nothing but the wreckage. I've started taking steps to protect myself financially, closing accounts, gathering evidence, speaking to financial advisors. But even with all the legal stuff, it's hard to shake the feeling of betrayal. It's like she took everything that mattered, the savings, the house, even our family's stability, and just threw it away to chase some fleeting affair. I don't know what's worse, the fact that she cheated or that she stole from us to do it. All I know now is I have to focus on my kids, keep my head above water, and try to rebuild my life from the ground up. But trust, that's gone. Forever. The months since the divorce papers were filed have been a whirlwind of legal battles and emotional turmoil. I've spent countless nights awake, trying to piece together everything she's done, how she managed to hide so much for so long. The house she bought in her name alone is a stark reminder of her deception. I found out through a legal notice, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. She had gone behind my back, secured a property, and left me with nothing. No share in the house, no joint assets, just an empty bank account and a broken trust. I learned from the lawyer that she had used the stolen money to fund her new life. The money was spent on luxury vacations, designer clothes, and that house, paid off in full, in her name alone. She'd been planning this escape for months, maybe even years. All the while I was working, providing for the family, thinking everything was fine. Now I see the truth. She'd been working behind my back, stealing from us and lying every step of the way. She's painted herself as the victim, claiming I was emotionally abusive, but I know better. I was just trying to be a good husband to keep our family together. The emotional impact is still raw. Sometimes I feel like I'm walking through a fog. Other times I get hit with waves of anger that threaten to drown me. I've realized that the woman I married was never really the woman I thought she was. The betrayal runs deep. She stole our savings, lied about everything, and then turned around and accused me of abuse. It's hard not to feel bitter, even hopeless. I keep asking myself if I could have done something differently, if I should have seen the signs earlier, but the truth is, I trusted her. I believed in us. And now I'm left with nothing but the wreckage. I've started moving forward slowly but surely. I've been working with a financial advisor to get everything in order, closing joint accounts, protecting my credit, and trying to rebuild. I've also been talking to a therapist, trying to process the betrayal and the pain. It's not easy. Sometimes I feel like I'm just surviving, not really living. But I know I have to keep going for my kids, for myself. I've learned a lot from this experience. Trust is fragile, and some people will betray you in ways you never imagined. The hardest lesson is that sometimes the people you love the most can hurt you the deepest. Still, I refuse to let her steal my future, even if she's already stolen so much of my past. I'm determined to rebuild, piece by piece, and find some sense of peace amid the chaos. Now, looking back, I realize how much I underestimated her. Lisa wasn't just a bitchy wife, she was a master manipulator, a thief, and someone who could lie so convincingly she almost believed her own stories. I trusted her, and in the end, that trust was shattered into a million pieces. The house she bought in her name, the stolen money, the false accusations, she managed to rewrite her story, paint herself as the victim, and leave me drowning in the aftermath. I've learned that betrayal cuts deeper than I ever thought possible. It's not just about the financial loss. It's about losing the person you thought you knew, the person you loved. But through all of this, I've also learned something else. I am stronger than I believed. I may have been, but I'm still standing. I'm rebuilding my life piece by piece, and I've come to realize that no matter how deep the betrayal, I can still find a way to move on. For anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, even if it means facing uncomfortable truths. Protect your finances, your dignity, and your peace of mind. Sometimes the only way to truly heal is to let go of the past and focus on what's ahead. I still have scars, but I also have hope. Hope that one day, I'll look back at this chapter and see it as the moment I refused to be broken. That's what keeps me going. Lisa's betrayal changed everything, but it also reminded me of my own resilience. I won't forget what she did, but I refuse to let it define me. I'm moving forward stronger and wiser, and in the end, that's all I can ask for.